This Valentine's Day, moviegoers could choose from two outside-the-box romances, and both have been available for some time on demand as well, but they just were released on Blu-ray and DVD for you folks who enjoy collecting physical media too. Let's talk about Love Hurts and Heart Eyes. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my movie reviews for two films from earlier this year that just were released on Blu-ray and DVD. Love Hurts and Heart Eyes. I've actually put this one off for a little bit. I saw Heart Eyes in theaters, but I did not see Love Hurts until much later. And so I thought, well, you know what? It's about to come out on DVD and Blu-ray, so let's wait to do the video, because I figured this was an easy one to do together. They both premiered on the same day, February 7th, exactly 1 week before Valentine's. Both did, okay at the box office, but not great. And both were sort of different views on the typical romance. Heart Eyes is a serial killer movie, so a horror romance, if you will. And then action comedy is probably the best genre for Love Hurts, and there's certainly some romance in there as well, as the title might indicate. So I figured this was a good one to lump together. We'll talk about all of this here in just a second, but first let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a subscriber for Dan Reviews It, thank you so much for that. Love when you guys return and check out my stuff. If you're not, though, please consider subscribing and click that notification bell so you get the alerts for all my video drops. I do try to post just about every day, and you can like this video or comment below. That stuff, of course, helps the channel out as well. So yes, these have been available on demand for a while now, of course, as is the theatrical window. Usually like 3 or 4 weeks after they come out, they go on demand, and then sometimes the DVDs and Blu-rays take a little bit longer. But look, there is something to be said certainly for physical media. I am certainly a fan. These are all real DVDs behind me. Some people have asked if that's like a background or something, but nope, they're all real. You can touch them and everything. And I don't know that I'll be getting either of these specifically, but look, these days the Blu-rays still have a lot of really cool extra features if you like the movie. And with all the streaming wars and everything else, you kind of never know where a movie is going to pop up or if it's going to go away. And then you have to, pay to rent it anyway and that kind of thing. So there is something to be said, I think, for physical media. So, all right. Anyway, with that aside, let's talk first about Love Hurts. So this follows a former hitman turned realtor played by Ke Kwan, who learns that his brother is hunting him when he reunites with his former partner. And so you have in this movie Ariana DeBose, who is the girlfriend of the Ke Kwan character, Marvin, and she's a lawyer as well. And then you have Daniel Wu as the estranged younger brother who is going after them. And we've seen him in a lot of things over the years. He's, very, very good character actor that's been in more than 50 films. Most recently, perhaps, he was in a similarly themed live-action comedy on Disney Plus called American Born Chinese. Certainly, the themes are a little bit different because that was about a teenage boy that is, and he's actually going to be in the next Karate Kid movie, this boy that was in American Born Chinese. But so that's like a more teenage look, but a lot of martial arts stuff in that show, and a lot of, live action, hand-to-hand combat, and that sort of thing. And so, I think it makes sense that they would get the same guy here for this to be. He was one of the adults in American Born Chinese, and he's the younger brother here. You also have Marshawn Lynch, who is really trying to, branch out into acting. He's obviously a ball player, but he's been doing some acting roles lately, and he's not great here, but you can see seeds of how he might be successful in the future as an actor. Look, let's be clear about this movie. This is not a very good movie. So let's talk about the reasons why, and then we can talk about the few slight positives. But the script here is just terrible. It's all over the place. Now, I would say Heart Eyes is more in the actual romance department. This really is more of an action comedy, and there's sort of a romantic, afterthought with the script, and that's for better or worse. But I think people going into this, it's called Love Hurts, and you see, candy hearts on the poster, you may think it's more of a straight-ahead romance or more of a romance at all. It's such an afterthought for this movie. And that's not necessarily the negative about it. I mean, that's fine. Little bit tricky in the marketing to release it around Valentine's Day, call it Love Hurts, and then not have it really be about the romance at all. But no, the problem is this movie just doesn't work. The script is weak. Ke Kwan, look, he can be a good actor, and I can appreciate that he is an Oscar winner now for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Obviously, we love his story, right? He got out of the business after being a child actor for many, many, many years. He wasn't in the business and then started slowly kind of creeping his way back in. And then, one of his first projects back was this big Oscar-winning role in an Oscar-winning movie, and so now he's a bit more in demand. But this is really his first shot at being a leading man, at least in a big budget movie. Maybe he did some indies along the way that not many people saw. I don't know. But this was kind of touted as, and in interviews and everything, saying, hey, this is my first big starring role. And by the way, one of his Goonies co-stars is in this as well. Sean Astin has a very small role as Marvin's former mentor. So that is fun. And, there was some news about the Goonies kind of reunion at the premiere for this movie. It's all cute. It's all a nice story. But here's the problem. Ke Kwan is not that great of an actor. He's okay. But look, you take decades off, you're going to be a little bit rusty. But it's not really his acting. He's probably the best part of this movie, to be honest, because he's just this guy that we root for. I guess maybe because, we fell in love with him as a kid actor and all of this and his story, and we just want him to succeed, right, as an actor. And I think he's probably the best part of this movie just because it's so nice to see him on screen. It's so exciting. And there is some interesting hand-to-hand combat and some good martial arts scenes and stuff. Some. But because of that, the plot just goes completely by the wayside. The script is bad. The plot is bad. Ariana DeBose is okay. I never really bought that they were together ever. I know she's the former girlfriend, but that's sort of the romantic part of the movie. But I didn't buy their chemistry. So other than some okay martial arts scenes, but there's too many of them. Like, if you're going in this to see a martial arts action movie, okay, maybe this will work a bit better for you. I went into this expecting to see a little bit more of a hybrid between martial arts, comedy, and romance. And on 2 of the 3, it failed spectacularly. And on the martial arts stuff, it did okay. So I will leave Love Hurts really only for those few good martial arts scenes and for loving to see Ke Kwan to succeed in life. I will leave Love Hurts with a D+. So let's move on to the better of the two, and that is Heart Eyes. That's the one I saw in theaters. And this is a serial killer movie for the most part, but yes, it is romance as well, certainly. And we have here the Heart Eyes killer that has been out and about the last few years, wreaking havoc on Valentine's Day, stalking and murdering romantic couples. And I forget what town this takes place in. Is it about Seattle? Okay. So you have Olivia Holt as Allie, who is a pitch designer, and Mason Gooding, who is Jay, a consulting advisor. The two of them bump into each other randomly at a coffee shop and get to talking a little bit and agree to have dinner that night, so they can sort of bounce some ideas off of each other, as sort of a business dinner. But yes, it's Valentine's night. The dinner goes horribly, and the two end up, not sparking up romance. But the Heart Eyes killer is confused about this and thinks that they are a couple and ends up, stalking them. And so they have to sort of save their own lives while trying to convince the Heart Eyes killer that they are not a couple. So there's some comedy here as well, and I think it works better here than it did in Love Hurts. This movie actually reminded me a bit of Thanksgiving that came out a couple of years ago. I think that was Eli Roth directed that. And with that one, it wasn't necessarily romantic, but the idea of a serial killer sort of based around a holiday sort of is what this is, and you throw in the romance on top of it because it's a Valentine's Day movie. But this was co-written by Christopher Landon, who just had a pretty successful horror movie called Drop that he directed, and that is the son of Michael Landon. We talked about that in the Drop video. And he produced this as well, but he didn't direct it. That was Josh Rubin, who directed, a couple of very, very minimal horror movies that I've never heard of. One was about a werewolf or whatever. And then you have Mason Gooding in this, like I mentioned, who we've seen in recent serial killer movies already because he was part of the recent Scream revival. And then Olivia Holt, not aware of her in the horror realm, but she is part of the Marvel TV universe, not the Disney Plus, successful Disney Plus universe, but she played Dagger in Cloak and Dagger on Freeform, and then she reprised that role in a Spider-Man series, and then also Runaways on Hulu. So both Cloak and Dagger and Runaways, not really, what you call successful Marvel series, and they have nothing to do with like the bigger picture, the MCU or whatever. But anyway, she's maybe known for that role. But you have a couple of other people that you'll recognize here: Jordana Brewster, Devon Sawa, Michaela Watkins. They all are in this as well. So this movie succeeds, I think, where Love Hurts failed. And I don't think this movie is, great, but it's certainly a bit above average. I think partially because all three of the sort of genres that we're working on here, horror, comedy, and then romance, all blend together a lot better than they did in Love Hurts. And there's some definite chemistry between the two leads, as opposed to Love Hurts. And I think the action, well, look, it's a little more simplistic because it's a horror movie. But because you have that comedy element, some of the kills are comedic. Some of the moments surrounding the kills are comedic. And there's also a heavy emphasis on sort of name-checking classic rom-coms to sort of bridge the comedy and the romance here. In fact, there's one scene specifically where they mention like 4 or 5 movies at once. I forget what all of them are now, but oh, well, let me tell you 10 things I hate about you. You make me want to scream. Whatever it was. But so that was pretty funny. Going back and forth sort of with the name checking. But look, nothing here is, I say this all the time, reinventing the wheel. This is all sort of pretty standard serial killer stuff. Yes, some fun kills. Yes, there's some chemistry between the leads, and the romance here actually works, I think. So this works better as a Valentine's movie, certainly, than Love Hurts did. But yeah, so just about everything works a bit better here. But again, it's not great, but it's certainly above average. So I will leave this one, Heart Eyes, with a B-. I think it will appeal to fans really of all three genres, as long as you're a romance fan that can handle a little bit of gore and a little bit of horror, and don't just like your straight ahead rom-coms. But I think fans of all three genres will find something to enjoy with this one. So that is definitely my preferred of the two. But you can check these out now on demand, or you can buy them on DVD or Blu-ray and check out some of those extra features and whatnot and add them to your collection. All right, thank you so much for watching Dan Reviews It, and we'll see you next time.